Hi there. Today in the series on knife evaluations, I'm going to talk about a knife I've had for many years. It's the Spyderco Harpy. In the catalogue it's the C08 and it was designed around the idea of the claws of the Harpy eagle. It's a compact serrated edge knife which really was designed by Spyderco as a work knife, specifically for people working around boats and fishing. The idea being that if you need to cut nets or line at a distance, if you reach out with the hawksbill curved blade and pull, it captures the cutting material and you cut through it, rather than a straight blade which just has to saw or you have to hold it with the other hand. So if you're holding on in a boat for stability, you can use the knife one-handed. Also, with the point not being in line, if it's dropped, it won't puncture an inflatable, or it's less likely to puncture a buoyancy aid and this kind of thing. That's what it was designed for, and obviously I've never used it for that particular purpose. It was first introduced in 1987, and in 93 the same blade was combined with an FRN, a kind of resin handle, and named the C21 Merlin. It was discontinued, the Merlin, but in 1996 reappeared. Sorry, it was discontinued in 96 but reappeared in 99 with an updated handle, now named the C08 BK Harpy. Harpy variations do exist. So in my particular case, I saw the Harpy in the importers in South Africa, RAM, are very large knife importers, which I always try to visit because they always had lots and lots of really good gear. And I'd actually bought my civilian there. And then I thought the idea of a backup to the civilian, well, a compact hawksbill knife might be a good idea. So I had it in the back of my mind to do that. And in some ways you can think of the Harpy as being the civilian's feisty little sister. Then, and this is in the days before the internet, I saw an advert in a knife magazine for Smoky Mountain Knife Works were offering the last run of G10 handled Harpies. The previous ones had either been FRN or metal for corrosion resistance, stainless steel. But they had some G10 remaining in stock, and they were getting rid of them at a very, very reasonable price. So I ordered one, and back then ordering a knife from overseas was like adopting a kid. You had to write to them by mail, get a reply, get a quote, work out the postage, or they had to work out the postage, send that to you by mail, and then you had to go down to somewhere like American Express and buy an international money order, send that off by mail, and when that cleared they would send it over, and then the Royal Mail and Customs would then basically rob you and charge lots of duty and handling charges and VAT on the handling charges and so on. And so it was a convoluted and lengthy process, but I went through it and I ended up with the Harpy, and straight away I was impressed with it. The G10 handle, it's very subtly checkered. It isn't a checkering, but well, it is actually, but very, very, very subtle, and it's warm to the touch. The blade, very, very sharp, and it locks up like a safe. It's the rocker lock that was on a lot of the Spydercos, but it's very, very solid. And likewise, the clip is very, very strong. So when you clip it to your pocket or to your waistband or to anywhere else, and there are some other carry options, then it's not going to move. You're not going to lose it. It's very, very secure and positive. So I was really well pleased with the knife, and I started carrying it wherever legal as a backup knife to what I was carrying, which was mainly the civilian back then. One of the things that struck me about the Harpy, we were doing quite a bit of women's training. Marcus had started the Nikita program, and I started its counterpart, the Valkyrie program. The difference being in the Nikita program, they use firearms as well, and the Valkyrie program was for the UK where firearms were illegal. And we thought about the use of knives in the program. Marcus was very proficient in knife work, and noticing in the clubs when you'd see girls fight, they would tend to use this cat's paw action, this instinctive cat's paw action, where rather than the punching that men tend to use. And if you take that cat's paw action and put a knife in the hand, it's tremendously effective. So even without training, just on instinct, if the woman can use a curved blade knife, it's a good self-protection option. The other thing about the Harpy, it's a compact knife, and in a woman's hand, I mean in my hand, with my big bass player hands, it disappears, but even in a woman's hand, it's all held within the diameter of the profile of the hand, and there's nothing protruding, there's no disarm points. So if a guy grabs hold of your hand, the only thing really you can get hold of is the blade, and you know, you start to cut loose. So straight away I thought that was a good option. One of the most celebrated female instructors, Gracielas Casillas, who presented a module at a conference I attended. She was really good on female self-defense, and I learned a lot from her. She designed a knife specifically for female self-defense called the Lady Hawk, and it's basically a rather expensive Harpy. So what I was thinking about for the women did correlate with what one of the most prominent instructors also viewed the matter. So apart from the instinctive cat's paw action, there are other techniques, and we'll talk about them just a little bit later. What I'll talk about now is a couple of the carry options, and you can clip the knife to various things, as we will see, but I also invested in a sheath. So the sheath for the Harpy came from Mike Sastre at River City Sheaths. I've been talking to him. By this time the internet existed, and I'd been in contact with him on forums, and he was running a company called River City Sheaths, his sideline, and this is the sheath for the Harpy, which he does for several folders, but the Harpy in particular. And it's made out of a type of material very similar to Kydex, but it's called Concealex. It's more of a carbon fiber material. And the idea is for Mike with his River City, he's heavily into whitewater rafting, and for the stuff I talked about earlier, that the curved blade knife doesn't puncture inflatables and so on, that was a consideration. But you may need a knife for cutting various things in a riverine environment, so you've always got it on you. And the neck knife sheath is designed specifically for that. So the blade comes out and you have the knife around your neck, for example. I found it very, very useful. On one trip I carried it in the River City sheath 24/7, including in the shower. So I had a weapon on me at all times, and it worked very, very well. It's an excellent piece of kit. I'll put the link at the bottom to where you can contact Mike at River City. Neck access, a neck knife in a sheath under the clothing is never going to be fast, and even with the tactical folder where you have to open the knife as well, it's more of a complex problem. So it's more, to me, it's more of a third line type of carry. So you've got your primary weapon, you've got a backup weapon which should be very, very accessible, probably on opposite sides of the body for a counter grappling situation. So you've always got a limb that can access it. The backup sheet should be accessible by either hand ideally, but then if all else fails, the third line is the neck sheath. And we've done tests of this, speed tests, you know, with the electronic timer and so on, and it's never going to be quick accessing a knife from a neck sheath. And at some stage I'll do a video specifically on neck knives, and we'll talk about that in more detail. And finally, as I mentioned, techniques. Now this isn't a technique video, and we'll probably again do a video specifically on the use of the knives, but for hawksbill knives there are some specific types of technique. For example, you can have, whereas with I'll demonstrate with this knife, if I go side on, a snap cut is just an extension, and the natural snap of the wrist gives you the cut to the target. With the hawksbill knife, what you have is it holding the knife vertically, and then I'll do it straightforward, you punch it to the target and you get that action, cutting. So it's a very fast, it's like a jab, keeping someone at bay and causing incremental damage to them. So that's one of the techniques, a variation on the snap cut. And then you have the, instead of a thrust, you can't thrust because you don't have the inline point, you have the can opener action, targeting the subclavian, jugular notch, the eye sockets, the bladder behind the pubic bone, and so on. Okay, it's grisly stuff, I know that, but edge weapon combat is grisly stuff, and remember, it's only for situations where lethal force is entirely justified. And if you can't stomach the idea of that, then carrying an edge weapon isn't for you. You should have some other option. So as I said, I'm not going to go completely into the techniques of the knife on this one, but that's basically my evaluation of Spyderco Harpy. It's a knife I have carried in the past. Don't tend to carry it now anymore. I've got other things, but it's still excellent for the purpose, and together with the sheath from my really good range of options. I'll put the link to where you can obtain it. They're still in the catalogue, and I'll put the link for overseas and also for UK purchase.